Welcome to the Tell Us Ellis podcast.
All right, everybody, it is a Sunday, and boy, I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately. I did the Royal Rumble show on Friday, did the American League and National League Central changes to different teams yesterday, doing this one today. Murph and I might still record today. We're definitely doing a Super Bowl recording on Tuesday with Murph and David Buckler, so looking forward to that. Today, though, I wanted to jump on something that I started a couple weeks ago, and that is a rewind sessions specifically focused on classic films and focused on football as we lead up to the Super Bowl. So this is going to be my next to last one, doing a football movie in relation to the Super Bowl, by the way. I might do other football movies. Who knows? But this one is a classic, and it's a little different than what we've been looking at the last couple of movies, and that's all I'm going to say about it until we get into it. I just want to remind you that you can check me out social media, X and Instagram at Tell Us Ellis HQ, and also on YouTube at Tell Us Ellis Media. And make sure you subscribe when you go in there. Subscribe, that way those episodes come right up on your playlist, whether it's Apple, whether it's Spotify, whether it's YouTube. They'll come right up for you, and that way you can listen to the episodes right as they come out. I usually listen to my podcasts on 1.5 times speed. I just find that to be, I get more in. And quite frankly, I think my voice sounds better at 1.5 times speed. I don't know. Check it out. Hit subscribe and then check it out. So if you have any questions, want to join the show, or leave a comment, email me, Jamie at tellusellis.com, and let's get into the rewind sessions. So this movie is built on a premise that is so insane that absolutely no human resources department, insurance company, or legal team would survive the first sentence. Guards versus inmates, full contact. All right. Well, welcome back to the rewind sessions. Today, I'm finally loosening the tie, cracking a beer, and getting a little mud on the jersey, because this one is fun. This movie is absolutely fun. After the sincerity of a Rudy, after the unexpected emotional gut punch of North Dallas 40, I just felt like we needed a football movie that remembers football. You know, it can be loud, dumb, violent, hilarious, and somehow still meaningful. So today, we're rewinding to 1974. It's The Longest Yard, the original, not the Adam Sandler remake, but the original Longest Yard from 1974. This is not one with the explosions or the modern jokes. This is the gritty, sweaty, slightly unhinged Burt Reynolds classic. It's a movie where football solves a prison problem, if that makes any sense at all. NFL legends casually commit assault on screen. Authority figures are openly corrupt, and the moral high ground is earned by absolutely flattening somebody. And somehow, all of this, it survives time. So let's get into it. Let's rewind, and let's talk about The Longest Yard. So before I really get into it, I always like to ground the episodes in kind of where this movie lives for me. And The Longest Yard, that place is pretty simple. It's watching this movie with my dad when I was young. I'm pretty sure the first time I saw the movie was in the late, I'd say early, maybe to mid 80s. It was likely on HBO, likely the only movie channel we had at the time. And I just remember sitting there watching it with my dad. We were both laughing at it. We weren't analyzing it. We didn't break it down like I do nowadays with these rewind sessions. We just enjoyed how ridiculous and fun it was. And it wasn't a serious movie night. It was one of those moments where the TV was on, you know, this movie sucked you in, and suddenly we're both quoting lines, reacting to all the hits and stuff like that. I watched it a few times back then, and it always landed the same way. It was funny. It was rough. Absolutely rewatchable at any point in time. And what's interesting is I came back to it later in life, and believe it or not, I never actually watched the Adam Sandler remake. I just never felt the pull to do it. This one always felt like it already said what it needed to say. And watching it again now, preparing for this podcast, I liked it as much as I did back in the early 80s. So that says something. So now, with that background for me, let's get into it. And let's just start by setting the stage for 1970s America. Okay. 1974, America is tired. Vietnam just ended. Watergate happened. Trust in institutions is basically at zero. Movies stop pretending the system works. Heroes aren't clean anymore. Authority figures are usually villains. And that's what makes The Longest Yard feel less like a goofy sports movie and more like, what if football was the only honest thing left? This isn't about winning championships. This isn't about dignity, and maybe it's even a little revenge. The Longest Yard was released just weeks before Nixon resigned. And again, anti-authority movies were everywhere at this time. This one just happened to have shoulder pads involved with it. It definitely is a complete contrast to the much cleaner and upstanding Rudy, which I covered a few weeks ago. But yeah, this one just a little like downright kind of crude and dirty. So we're introduced early on to Paul Crewe, aka Burt Reynolds, and it's really Burt Reynolds, being Burt Reynolds. Back at this time, you have to remember Burt Reynolds was a big hit. I mean, he was a huge hit. He had turned down roles for James Bond and also Han Solo during this era. I'm not kidding. Han Solo could have been Burt Reynolds. He was that big. And if only he knew how great he truly was. Anyway, Paul Crewe is played by Burt Reynolds, and let's just acknowledge something up front. Burt Reynolds walks into every scene like he owns it. And honestly, in the 70s and 80s, he did own it. He really did. There's a specific Burt Reynolds energy that's hard to explain if you don't grow up with it. It's that laugh, that ha ha. It's like that chuckle. It sounds like he's already amused at you. The smile, equal parts charm and mischief. He always looks like he knows something everyone else in the room hasn't figured out yet. And Reynolds was the guy, like I said, late 70s into the early 80s. Nobody had a run quite like him. Think about Smokey and the Bandit. Think about Deliverance, Hooper, The Cannonball Run, hit after hit after hit. He wasn't just a movie star, he was a personality. And you didn't go see a character, you went to see Burt Reynolds. And that matters here. Paul Crewe isn't written as some deeply layered psychological case study, right? He works because Reynolds brings that natural charisma. The sense that this guy has already lived a little too hard, laughed a little too much, and paid some real prices for it. And off screen, his life kind of mirrored that energy. A huge fame, huge money, very public relationships from Sally Field, who was the absolute love of his life, to Dinah Shore, Lonnie Anderson. A lot of you who knew Burt Reynolds or lived back in this day knew about the Lonnie Anderson relationship, and even Tammy Wynette. And perhaps because there were rumors of relationships with Goldie Hawn and Sybil Shepherd as well. So a lot of women, a lot of excess, a lot of ego, and eventually some real consequences for Burt Reynolds. By the time The Longest Yard comes along, Reynolds understands something about fallen stars, about being on top and then being brought down a few pegs. So when Crewe shows up as a disgraced quarterback, cocky, broken, not really sure what he believes in anymore, it doesn't feel like acting. It feels like lived in. It feels like he lived in it because he did. He's not chasing redemption. He's mostly just chasing survival and cigarettes. And when he lands in prison, he's not treated like a hero. He's treated like a tool, honestly, like a tool. The warden sees football. The guards, they see entertainment. Crewe sees nothing really worth caring about anymore, which is kind of the point. So let's talk about the prison a little bit. Ed Lauder and Eddie Albert, the captain and the warden, both have played in a ton of roles over time and both do a great job as kind of the bad guys in this movie. Not kind of, they were the bad guys in this movie. Very funny here. So I'm watching the movie, and again, I've seen it before, but just watching it this time, and all of a sudden, Mike Henry, or should I say Junior Justice? Yes, Junior Justice from Smokey and the Bandit. You remember Junior, right? Junior Justice shows up on the screen, and I just busted out laughing. He's got that way in Smokey and the Bandit of, hey, daddy. In this movie, he plays a little bit of a tougher role, but you just love seeing Junior Justice there with the bandit, nonetheless, in this movie. The prison is not nuanced. The guards are cruel. The warden's smug. The system's rigged. Every guard looks like they were hired specifically because they enjoyed violence a little too much. Again, when I saw Mike Henry, I can't stop thinking about it. It's Junior from Smokey and the Bandit. I mean, my goodness. By the way, how did Sally Field, why was she gonna marry Junior Justice? 2 times. I don't get it. The fit just wasn't there. Anyway, if you grew up watching Burt Reynolds movies, it's impossible not to laugh when you see him. It's this cinematic universe accidentally crossed over into a prison football movie, and all of a sudden Burt Reynolds pops up. It's not Shawshank Redemption by any means. There's no quiet hope here. There's only one currency in this prison, and that is power, and the guards have it all. So let's fast forward to this game idea, or maybe I'll call it the worst idea that somehow becomes perfect. Again, modern HR departments or insurance companies or lawyers, there would not be a waiver strong enough for them to agree to this game. But the warden wants entertainment, so he proposes a football game. It's guards versus inmates. And by the way, the guards have this semi-pro football team that they play, and they've been really good over time. And at first, the warden wants Burt Reynolds, to coach their team, to help this semi-pro team. He refuses. And what he does say is, you need some warm-up games. You need to try these guys out against a warm-up team. And that's when the warden says, I have an idea. Why don't you play for the warm-up team and make it some of the prisoners, some of the inmates? And eventually he's strong-armed into doing it. So it's guards versus inmates. Absolutely insane idea. And no universe would ever have this work in real life. There's no version that ends well. This isn't just unrealistic, it's aggressively absurd, but that's what makes the movie that much better. You're telling me that the solution to prison morale, discipline, and power dynamics is full contact football between the people with all the authority and the people with absolutely nothing to lose? Again, already insane. So then, as I said, he decides Crew's going to coach it, Crew's going to quarterback it, and Crew will definitely, no doubt, absolutely lose this game. It's not just a game. It's like the warden wants to make it a public execution with pads. He wants to put down the inmates, to destroy their spirit, but that's when something kind of unexpected happens. So Crew starts recruiting some teammates. And at first, it's a collection of absolute chaos. So again, there are certain things that pop up in this movie that just make me laugh. The first one is Richard Kiel showing up in this movie. Richard Kiel goes by the name Samson in the movie. We all probably know him as Jaws from the James Bond movies. Huge guy, right? Really tall guy, metal mouth in the James Bond movies, but he's got this soft side. He's big, and I mean big, but he's a big baby in this movie. You know, I think somebody breaks his nose and he starts crying about it, but just hilarious character in this movie. You have Robert Tesler playing Connie Schockner. It's this bald guy, completely bald, tough guy, comes out, does kung fu moves. Everybody's scared of him. Seems like the most dangerous guy in the prison. He gets recruited onto the inmate team. You have Sonny Sixkiller, who plays the role of Indian. He's an Indian guy, and Crew, Burt Reynolds, just calls him Indian. You've got Michael Conrad playing Nate Scarborough. He is the coach that turned role model on the field in this movie, and just a cast of characters, okay? And then on the warden side, you've got a guy like Ray Nitschke, yes, former football player Ray Nitschke, playing Bogdansky. He's one of the toughest linebackers in the NFL, Ray Nitschke, and he looks exactly like you'd expect him to look in the movie. He is strong, he is short-tempered, he is aggressive, permanently annoyed. He doesn't really play football in the movie as much as settle scores. So then you've got a guy like Pop, played by John Stedman. He is this old man who's been in prison forever, tells a story of how he hit the warden at one point and he's never going to get out of prison, but he's the old man that you just want to love and hug. You have a guy like Granville, played by Harry Caesar. He joins the team, and you know, when there was some racial intones of this movie where at first all of the white inmates, not all of them, but Burt Reynolds was recruiting from the white inmates. The black inmates wanted nothing to do with this football game until this guy, Granville, decides to join the team and pretty much says, hey, if I've got a chance to play against the guards and beat up the guards, I'm going to do it. None of this is it's coming together on this team. None of it feels polished. None of them feel coached. They feel like exactly who they're supposed to be, inmates with grudges, muscle, and nothing to lose. Okay. It's not a disciplined team. It's, uh, I'll call it a weaponized grievance committee, and it's glorious. Okay. So then we move on into kind of this training camp. The team comes together, and I'll call it a training camp. I think they have 3 weeks to prepare for this game. I talked to you about the racial dynamics. They weren't heavily scripted in this movie. A lot of the blocking and interaction that you see racially on the screen was organic on the set. It wasn't meant to be this huge racial divide, but that kind of makes the movie even more interesting as you read into it. But they start playing in training camp, squaring off against each other, inmate against inmate, and they are terrible. And not in a lovable underdog way. I mean, in a complete mess way. They run the tires and nobody can run the tires right, and they fall down, and then they hit the tackling dummy, and the dummy actually swings back and hits them and knocks them over. I mean, it looks less like football practice and more like a badly organized yard fight. It's awful. Crew is throwing passes to nobody because blocking is optional, and everyone wants to hit, but no one wants to protect. So crew pretty much goes down on every play. But then the roster starts to fill out more. Adds players piece by piece, guys who weren't interested at first, guys who didn't think this was worth their trouble, guys who didn't trust the system anymore. They start coming in and wanting to be part of this. And that's what kind of starts changing, that there's this sense of buy-in in the movie. Again, even from the racial side of things. I talked about the one player that came over and decided to play. Well, all of a sudden, after an incident with the guards, a lot of the other black prisoners come over and say that they want to join the team as well. And things just start gelling. It is pretty incredible. And I'm not saying they were good, by the way, but they at least are getting along and they're practicing well. It's not like there were these big speeches or coaching lessons that Burt Reynolds gave, the crew gave to the team. It was just contact. It was them hitting each other and realizing, hey, I'm actually blocking for someone. I'm taking a hit for someone. I'm seeing someone get up after being leveled. And football becomes a common language between them. And by the time training camp really gets going, it's no longer about who's who or where you came from. It's about whether the guy next to you will do their job. And again, crew doesn't say speeches or inspire with speeches. He inspires by slowly remembering that he still gives a damn about this sport. And the inmates, they're not playing to win. Remember, they're just playing to hit back. So, what about the guards then? The guards treat football exactly how they treat power. Unfairly. They cheat, they hit late, they enjoy it. This is football as oppression. And what makes it work, and honestly, what makes it funny, is how unsubtle they are about how they go about their business. These guys, they're not conflicted in any way. They're not wrestling with morality. They're just jerks. They're the kind of people who think authority exists so they can use it. And every guard plays like he's been waiting his whole life to legally hit someone who can't fight back. So that's the setup. Ultimately, it leads to this game, right? And the game is, it's a spectacle, right? First of all, I've got to talk about let me talk about the crowd first. So they get a really good attendance for this. I'm not sure who would want to come to this game. Maybe it's some of the guards' families. I don't think it's the inmates' families, but it's a nice field and it's got a good atmosphere. There's a lot of fans there. There's also these cheerleaders, and they're these, I think there's 3 black cheerleaders that are doing these cheers throughout the game that just makes you laugh. I mean, it is hilarious. It is not your modern day cheerleading. And they give these shouts and jeers and cheers, and it is just hilarious. So that's kind of the setting, if you will. But again, let's get to the football game. The football game, it's not cheap shots. It's delayed cheap shots. It's cheap shots after the whistle. It's cheap shots before the snap. And by the way, this is happening on both sides. It's definitely less NFL and more legally sanctioned riot. It's like WWE or AEW when they have a lights out match or a match that's quote not sanctioned by any wrestling body. They don't want to be responsible for it. That's exactly what this is, and it's really funny. It's hilarious. Early on, the guards kind of dominate. I mean, they're bigger, they're organized, they're backed by authority. Crew plays well and keeps the game close with the inmates. And by the end of the first half, it's a pretty close game, even though the guards started out by dominating. In fact, they may have run back the opening kick for a touchdown, or it was like the first play from scrimmage, something like that. By halftime, it's pretty close. And that's when something changes. That's when the inmates are very excited. They've kept this game pretty close. The guards are pissed. They're winning, but not by very much. And the warden calls Crew into the shower area and basically says, Crew, I don't know what the F you're doing, but you're going to lose this game. And Crew says, are we? I don't think we are. And the warden then threatens Crew by saying, well, your one friend that died in his cell, and there was a character that died in his cell. He was set up by somebody and ended up dying. Basically, the warden says, I'm going to pin that on you. And if I pin that on you, you're going to be in here for the rest of your life. So you need to lose the game. And by the way, I want you to lose by at least 21 points. What's Crew going to do? He's got a locker room full of excited inmates because they're keeping this game close. But on the other hand, Crew has a couple of months left, maybe a year left on his prison sentence. Is he really going to throw it all away for a football game? And that's the dilemma that he runs up against. By the way, I didn't say this early on, but if you saw this movie, you know this. You know, Crew had played football. He was a former MVP in the NFL. That's the story here. But he got caught shaving points from games. Basically, he was betting on football games. And you never really find out why. There's some dialogue there at times, but he never really says why he did it. And so when the team comes out in the second half, all of a sudden, Crew starts throwing the game. He doesn't throw the ball downfield to open receivers. He throws a couple interceptions. At least one of them was for a touchdown. I think he fumbled the ball. And all of a sudden, you know, he limps to the bench and says, hey, I'm out. I hurt my foot. And his teammates, the other inmates, they absolutely see this. They see him throwing the game and they are pissed. They are angry and they're like, you know, you did it again, Crew. Essentially, what are you made of? You've got nothing inside of you. You are nothing. You got us excited only to throw a game for your own benefit. And again, really difficult thing for him to contend with. So all of a sudden, inmates are down by more than 21 points. One of the deals that Crew made in the locker room with the warden was, hey, once you're up 21 points, though, you lay off my players. You don't hit them. You know, give them some dignity here. And what happens? Well, the prison guards go up 21 points and they start beating the hell out of the inmates. A couple guys go out on stretchers. It is an execution. I mean, they're killing them, and Crew sees this, and now he's getting pissed. Something else happens here, and it goes back to Nate Scarborough. He's played by Michael Conrad in this movie. Nate Scarborough was was Crew's and the team's coach on the sidelines, but he had dressed up for the game and kind of made a joke about coming into the game. But all of a sudden, he put himself in the game and he took the lead and he showed the team, look what I can do. I'm going to put this on my shoulders. And he actually scores a touchdown to get the inmates, I'm not even going to say back in the game, but give them some hope. Unfortunately, right after he scored the touchdown, one of the guards goes after his knees and knocks him out of the game. But that triggered something in Crew to say, you know what? I'm going to back this guy up. I'm going to back the team up. I'm going in to hell with my future. We're going to win the game. And so Crew comes in and first play, the team doesn't block and just lets him get sacked. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he was trying to screw the team and now they've given up on him. But slowly but surely, he gets their buy-in back. And slowly but surely, they start catching up in this game. And it's suddenly from, you know, I think it was a 23-point game. It goes down to 15, and then it goes down to 8. And then I can't remember the exact score, but they're within one touchdown of winning this game. And all of a sudden, there is a final drive. And this drive takes them down essentially to the goal line. And clock is running out. There's one play left. Crew has a chance. And by the way, on this last play, Burt Reynolds wanted to do all the running himself. He didn't want a stunt person in there. He insisted on doing the running himself. So Crew has a chance. He can still throw the game if he wants. The warden is still watching. And this is kind of where the longest yard leaves its legacy. Crew doesn't throw the touchdown. Okay. He rolls out to the right, runs, doesn't see anything, turns back to the left, runs, takes the ball, and he jumps over the goal line, takes a huge hit, but he chooses pain over safety. And that choice means more than winning ever could. But it does mean that they win the game. And he didn't score for redemption. He did it for respect. And it's one of the great football movie endings because it feels earned. It's physical and final and earned. No speech is required. So at the end, we contend with this question of what would have we done if we were in that spot? If we could throw a game and get out of prison or win a game and potentially be in prison for life, where's your dignity? Where's your pride? What would you do? At the end of the game, the inmates don't escape. The system doesn't change, but something does break. The guards lose control and maybe gain respect for the inmates. You definitely see that. You definitely see some respect being given to the inmates after the game. The warden loses face, and all the inmates walk off the field taller than they walked on it. And sometimes that's just the win. The movie understands something fundamental. Football is honest. It exposes who people really are. You can't fake toughness. You can't fake fear. You can't fake heart. And maybe more importantly, you can't fake buy-in. In a corrupt system, the field becomes the last fair place. And the idea kind of still resonates even more now than it did in 1974. So going back to my last couple of movies that I did as part of the Rewind sessions, if Rudy is about belief and if North Dallas 40 is about disillusionment, I think the longest yard is about reclaiming dignity. And it's not through faith. It's not through money. It's through defiance. And it's the middle chapter we didn't know we needed. It's the one that says sometimes survival itself is a victory. So as I was kind of reflecting on this movie, as I was getting prepared for the podcast, I realized, it's a movie that doesn't really need over-explained. And it doesn't need me to soften edges, and the movie itself doesn't confuse humor with emptiness. I think the remake for me, it just never really interested me. I think this version already said what it needed to say, that with real grit, real personalities, and real physicality, it kind of left everything on the field there. It's a funny movie. I mean, it makes you laugh. I actually watched it on a plane ride and to get prepared for it, and I was laughing hysterically. It's funny, it's violent, it's ridiculous, but it is honest in a way, and it reminds us that sports don't fix broken systems, but sometimes they remind broken people who they are, and that's worth, one hell of a hit. So when you look at the movie overall, the runtime is 2 hours and 1 minute. From an awards standpoint, Academy Awards, it was a 1975 nominee for Best Film Editing. Michael Luciano was up for that award. He was nominated, did not win. American Film Cinema Editors in the USA did give him the award for 1975 winner for Best Edited Feature Film. So he did win that award, not the Academy Award. Golden Globes, it won the award in 1975 for the Best Motion Picture Comedy or Musical. Nice job. It was also a 1975 nominee, Burt Reynolds, for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Comedy or Musical. Eddie Albert was also put up for an award for Best Supporting Actor in a Motion Picture. He's the warden, so yeah, makes sense. And then Most Promising Newcomer, James Hampton was up for an award in this one. James Hampton played Caretaker, who was this guy in the prison that did basically got a lot of intel for Burt Reynolds. in the movie. He was able to get him uniforms. He was able to get him film on the guard side of the house. He was just able to get all these little things to allow the inmates to learn a little bit more about the guards. And unfortunately, he is the one that I mentioned earlier was killed in the movie by an inmate kind of working for the warden. And but he was good. He was really good. I enjoyed him in this movie. So again, took away a couple awards. Definitely was nominated for a few awards. When I look at the top 5 grossing films, 19 for 1974's top 5 grossing films. Again, this came out in 1974. I will tell you that The Longest Yard came in at number 9, which I didn't think was that bad. It's hard to look at these numbers. I'm going to tell you how much they grossed. I don't think this was just for 1974 because those those numbers are hard to look at back in the early 70s. I think they started breaking it out more in the late 70s. But The Longest Yard grossed $43 million on a budget of $2.9 million. Okay. And again, that was ninth, 1974. Fifth was the movie Earthquake. It grossed $79.7 million. Number 4 was Young Frankenstein. That year, it grossed $86.3 million. Number 3 was The Trial of Billy Jack, which grossed $89 million. So far, 3 movies I had not heard of. I did hear of the top 2. Number 2 was The Towering Inferno, grossed $116 million. I loved that movie when I was growing up. It was about a huge building that caught fire and people were trapped. And I say I love it. It sounds horrid. It's awful, right? But I remember watching that as a kid. Number 1 was Blazing Saddles, came in at $119.5 million. That's what it grossed. The Longest Yard was released August 30, 1974. Other movies that were released in 1974 included The Godfather 2. And by the way, from a gross standpoint, that was the number 6 grossing movie. Herbie Rides Again. Yes, the love bug, the wonderful love bug. That grossed $31.8 million and was the 11th highest grossing movie of 74. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was number 15 at $26.6 million. Death Wish came in at number 20. It grossed $22 million. And then The Man with the Golden Gun, a James Bond movie, came in at number 21, grossing $21 million. So again, wanted to do a little episode that was of a movie that was a little more fun. I've got one more of these coming, and we'll release that before the Super Bowl. But I've enjoyed doing these, and it has been quite a contrast from Rudy to North Dallas 40 to now The Longest Yard. And I'm not going to tell you what the 4th movie is, although I already know what it is. And it is a favorite of mine, so you're going to have to wait for that one. But that's it, and hope you enjoyed The Longest Yard. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening, and hope you enjoy the rewind sessions. Look forward to doing non-football movies, although, again, it's appropriate to do football movies. I'd like to get an Olympic movie in here, maybe after the last football movie. The Olympics, my goodness, I think opening ceremonies are Friday night, which is strange. I would have thought they would have tried to wait just a little bit to get past the Super Bowl. Maybe that's too American of me to think that the Worldwide Olympics would wait for a Super Bowl, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of Olympic watching on Sunday. I think there's going to be a lot of football watching on Sunday. Just a reminder, you can follow me on my social media channels on X and Instagram at TellusEllisHQ or on YouTube at TellusEllis Media. Click the subscribe button wherever you're following me, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any major podcasting platform. You can find us. Make sure you click subscribe, though, wherever you are, so fresh episodes get downloaded to you. You can jump in your car. It'll pop up on your screen, and you can click play. And like I said, I think I do sound better in 1.5 times speed. If you have questions, want to join the show, or just want to disagree with me or agree with me, send me an email, jamie@tellusellis.com. That's all for this episode of the Rewind Sessions. Again, Rewind Sessions, The Longest Yard. I will see you soon.